When rent doesn't show up on time, I know it's tempting to flick on your mean landlord hat, but a structured, documented approach works way better and is legally safer. I'm Weiting, Bollu, CEO and co-founder of Openroom. After losing $35,000 from tenants who didn't pay rent, I've spent a few thousand hours dissecting the rental compliance laws of Canada, and now I'm here to share knowledge I wish I knew about rental housing to prevent you from repeating my mistakes. I've spoken to thousands of housing providers and residents. One can say I'm a little bit more than obsessed about everything in this realm. I breathe, sleep, and dream about Openroom, the future to a transparent and connected rental ecosystem. Let's dive into non-payment of rent, shall we? Here's a playbook. First, a courtesy call or an email right away. The day after rent was due, reach out. A simple email or a phone call saying, "Hey, I didn't see your payment come in. Is everything okay?" It can make a very big difference. Sometimes, you know what? Life happens and a friendly nudge avoids escalation. If rent is due monthly on the 1st, you can start serving on the 2nd. Some people wait, but it's recommended to serve the N4 notice by the 4th of the month at the latest. If rent is still unpaid, issue what's called a notice to end a tenancy early for non-payment of rent. This is called the Form N4. The LTB requires this formal notice. For monthly tenancies, the termination date must be at least 14 days after the delivery of the notice. I know you're wondering about Bill 60, but until Bill 60's changes actually take into effect, continue with 14 days. And for weekly or daily tenancies, it's 7 days. Make sure that your N4 is accurate. List only rent arrears, no extra non-rent charges, correctly calculate the amount owed and identify the tenant and the unit. Get the unit number and postal code right. Errors like that can invalidate your eviction case. Next, calculate the termination date correctly. Because the LTB is very strict about notice timing, count your days exactly. The day you serve counts as day 0, so your 14 or 7-day period begins the next day. Count carefully and be sure. Sometimes I'd actually add an extra day. If you get it wrong, your N4 could be rejected in a hearing, which means you're gonna have to start all over again. You don't want that. Then you would file the L1 application. If the termination date has passed and the tenant still hasn't paid or moved out yet, file the Form L1 application to evict a tenant for non-payment of rent and to collect rent the tenant owes. You can only file starting the day after the termination date listed on the N4. Now remember, include copies of the N4 and a certificate of service, plus your rent ledger showing the arrears. Use the Tribunal's Ontario portal or mail to file. The portal is, however, much quicker. Next, you want to offer a payment plan and you want it documented in writing. What does this mean? Even after filing, you should try to negotiate. The LTB encourages a good faith repayment offer. Send a written proposal to the tenant. Email is a great option as you will actually have a paper trail for it that you can use for evidence later. Use a formal payment agreement, ideally the LTB's form, and both parties should sign it. If the tenant later misses a payment, you may apply to reopen or terminate under certain conditions. All right, now it's time to actually go to the LTB hearing. At the hearing, you're going to need to present your evidence. So that includes your N4, your service proof, the rent ledger, any payment plan offer, communications, and much more. Put it all nicely into an evidence package. And you know what? My team's made an evidence template so that you can download and use for free. The LTB may issue what's called a payment plan order with a Section 78 clause, meaning that if the tenant misses a payment, you can actually enforce quickly. Or they may just order a termination or eviction plus payment of the arrears. Depends. Once the LTB order is issued, what do you do next? Well, from my side, I would love for you to share it with us at Openroom.ca. On our side, Openroom lets the public, like yourselves, share these decisions and the debt with each other so that we can share for transparency purposes. In addition, report the debt for credit reporting, even if the tenant hasn't physically left yet. This helps enforce accountability, and there's a chance that you could be paid back the debt. Enforcement of the order once evicted. That's what's next. Now, getting the order is one thing, enforcing it is actually another ballgame. If the tenant doesn't leave and doesn't pay, there are a few enforcement options that you can explore. Garnishment, examination hearing, writ of seizure and sale, and more through the small claims court. You can also list the debt with a collections agency. So you have some options, but it's still really hard, so keep that in mind. Keep pushing until you recover what is owed. It's time for the rental trio, the 3 top takeaways for tenants and landlords alike in today's lesson. Be polite, but don't let unpaid rent linger. Use the N4L1 hearing order enforcement sequence. Document everything, stay professional, and follow the RTA LTB rules very, very closely. That way, even if the eviction is your last resort, you've built a legally sound case and you've shown you've given the tenant many opportunities to pay the arrears. And that's it for today's Open Room University session. Drop me a comment, or generally, if you've got questions, ask me. Send it in to hello@Openroom.ca. Tell me what else you want to learn about. Other than that, I'll see you in the next session.